evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It's good to have you with us, and thank you for taking time to be on this webinar. I am Remy Kayode, the Education Lead for NSF UK, and I am one of the two moderators for tonight's webinar. The other moderator is Tola Ayeni, a member of NSF UK. And for the benefit of those of you joining us for the very first time, this is to inform you that NSF UK is Nigerian Schools Foundation and is the umbrella body for Nigerian Old Students Alumni. And the mission is to connect people, to promote awareness, and to develop communities. Tonight's webinar is on UK immigration and the Nigerian community. And our speakers will be addressing some of the key issues relating to this. So as we go through the session tonight, please feel free to put your questions onto the Q&A box. Our speakers will address these during the question and answer session. Please note, as usual, this webinar is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. We have two presenters tonight with vast experience between them. Both will be looking at the various issues relating to UK immigration and the Nigerian community. Our first speaker is Oluwayemisi Jenkins, MBE, and she will later on introduce her colleague, Debbie Shaw, who will contribute to some of the issues that will be discussed. Yemisi Jenkins, MBE, is currently the Home Office National Community Engagement Lead. Yemisi Jenkins, MBE, has over 20 years experience in strategic and operational roles in various departments across the civil service. Her current role involves engaging with the community to build trust and relationships and raise awareness in communities. He also facilitates voluntary return of vulnerable Africans who are undocumented and would like to return to their home country. He was recognized as a Home Office EDI advisor in the year 2014 and awarded an MBE for her services to border security and staff well-being at work in 2015. Please welcome Yemisi Jenkins, MBE.
Hi, Yemisi, we can't hear you.
I am so sorry. I didn't realize I was talking to myself. I was on mute. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for that introduction. And a big thank you to NSF for giving Home Office Immigration Enforcement this platform to engage with the Nigerian community. I have another colleague of mine from UKVI, one of our assistant directors, Debbie Shaw, who would also join me to do and present an overview on EU settlement scheme. Right, so the topic that we've been given is UK immigration and the Nigerian community. What are the key issues? Second slide, please. Right, now what I have done is just to give a little information about the number of Nigerians, because I've heard quite a few other people throw numbers around. And this, I'm sorry, is not very good. According to the ONS Office, England and Wales, this data was actually published in May 2020. The number of Nigerians in the UK, these are Nigerians who were born in Nigeria, as at when this was published for you, England and Wales, is 215,000. And for those in Scotland, 9,458. And for Nigerians in Northern Ireland is 543. I just needed to put that out there, just because I hear a lot of people throwing some numbers around, and those numbers do not actually tally with what the Home Office has. So what you're invariably saying is we have a lot more Nigerians in the UK than we know. And I think that is not a true reflection. I think that is not fair as well. So in terms of the key issues, I have decided to break them down into some key areas. The first one, lack of awareness and education. Now, when I say education, I'm not talking about school education. I'm talking about the information we need to help us when we either go and apply for visa or when we get here, that we need to ensure that we stay or abide by the immigration laws of the United Kingdom. A lot of people, when they come, I've heard things like, when I applied, I got here, and then at the borders, I was sent back. Now, one of the things that I've said to people, because I used to work in Border Force for 10 years based in Heathrow. And one key thing that was like a regular theme was when people go apply for their visas, by the time they get here, they're telling a different story of the reasons why they have come. So that results into what we call change of circumstance. Now, if you apply for a visa as a visitor and the reason for coming changes, please let the Home Office know so that when you get here, because some people have been sent back, and rightly so, because when you get here and you're telling a different story, or somebody who says he or she is coming on holiday, and in your bag you have your certificates, you have your tool of employment, what you're actually saying is you're actually coming for something different from holiday. So please, people should take note of that and make sure that the reason they have applied for is the reason that they're telling us when they come in and or when they get to the borders. Also, I said to people, even if you're paying, and most people pay, and these things don't come cheap, please, you must always come from a place of knowledge. What does that mean? All that simply means is please go to gov.uk. There's enough information on gov.uk when you're applying, what you can apply for, what you cannot apply for. Now, I have heard, or people have told me when we do community events where people have said, well, my lawyer has, or my solicitor has made an application for me. And the next question is, so what have they applied for? Oh, I don't know. You need to know. I would advise people, please, when you engage with a solicitor, you're paying them good money, so you deserve the service. Ask for a copy of the application that has been submitted to you. If you can, get somebody else to verify that this is what you discussed and this is what has been supplied. This is what has been submitted. And also make sure you ask them or tell them, or they should know, to please request for the evidence that it was recorded to the Home Office. A few times, some solicitors have said they have submitted application, and interestingly, it's not because we have lost it, it's just because these applications were never made in the first place. So when you do that, get them to give you a copy of what has been submitted, and get them to also give you a copy or the track number that you can use to check if need be. The other one, you're right in the UK. Please, there's a lot of information out there. We have a lot of communities, NGOs, let me call them NGOs, Nigerian-based community NGOs that has a lot of information. There's the human rights, there's a lot that people can engage with. Google is your friend, and also gov.uk is your friend. Exploitation is another key issue. A lot of Nigerians have been victims of modern slavery, human trafficking, domestic servitude, and domestic violence. Domestic violence, example, when people come on spouse visas, we've heard stories where they've been maltreated, and because they are on spouse visa, they are threatened, they don't know where to go to, and they just endure. You do not have to endure. Domestic servitude as well, please, people who go and bring their wards, who go and bring their family. If you're bringing people, the government is not saying you cannot bring them. What the government is saying is treat them like human beings. You must have a contract. There must be a time for them to start and finish work. You must have a place for them to live. They must have freedom to leave the house and go out. There has been cases where people have said, oh, they were trying to be good to them, but this is what has happened. And my question is always, do you have the evidence? Because the victim has documented evidence, but you do not have that. When you bring somebody to work for you, let them have access to their passport. Don't hold on to their passports. Let them have a key to the house so they can go and come freely, so their movement is not restricted. It's rather unfortunate that the same community that should be protecting you is the same one that is exploiting. People will not come from the Indian community to exploit Nigerians, no. People will not come from the Bangladeshi community to exploit the Albanians, no. It is the same, your community is the same community that exploits you just because they know your circumstance. We've heard of stories where other people use other people's names to work, and somebody is living in Birmingham, the person who is earning the money, whose account the money goes into, is living in London. And at the end of the month, you're given pittance. That is exploitation. Some people have come, they've been told one thing, they get here, it's a totally different story. Please, you need to report this, our crime. Please, you need to report them. And I'm aware that a lot of people, fear has been instilled into them by people who bring them in and who exploit them to say, oh, if the police know about you, if Home Office know about you, they would arrest you, detain you, and deport you. I can categorically tell you that if you are a victim, please, this is not true. Come and speak to us. We will support you. Now, I need to also make it clear that I am not saying that this is an automatic route for you to get your indefinite leave to remain. What I am saying, I'm trying to encourage people to report the crime, because at least you know that that crime will be dealt with and other people will not fall victim of this crime. There are other social issues such as safeguarding, a lot of parenting issues, a lot of children in social services, high number of Nigerian children are taking off their parents, and simply why? Because when they've come into the United Kingdom, they have not familiarized themselves with the laws of the land. You need to understand what it means. Now, even though some people say, oh, this happens in Nigeria, but I know very well that even in Lagos, in some states now, they're taking safeguarding, both for adults and children, very seriously. So there is no excuse to say, oh, this is because this is what they do in Nigeria. That is a lie. So please, when you come in, get to know people, get into your community and make sure you get the correct information. A lot of our children are also into gun and knife. And one of the reasons that I've heard, some people are saying, oh, because the parents are undocumented, and then they're fearful of reporting when they know that these children are beginning to get into trouble, to call in the police so that the police can help them. That there has been instances when they call the police to deal with a crime, rather than deal with a crime, they're asking for immigration status. So because of this, a lot of parents are suffering in silence. Please do not suffer in silence. Like I said earlier, a lot of resources, a lot of groups, social services, walk in there and tell them these are the challenges you're having with your child. Next slide, please. Right. Now, those are the issues as far as I'm aware. There may be more, but I've just decided to just categorize them into those three areas, because these are the ones that are very, very prevalent. And we as a community, the Nigerian community in diaspora, we need to deal with it. So the next one for me now is just to talk about, general information. I've heard a lot of, the Home Office is not diverse enough. Now, one of the things we do is actually to encourage people to come in and join us, join the workforce. There's a civil service website that people can register, and you get notification for jobs. It is not meant for only one set of people. It is meant for everyone. So please, if you're interested, the website is there, www.civilservicejobs.service.gov.uk. The other one I would like to talk about is voluntary return. Now, we know very well that some people come and at the end of the day, things do not work out as they have planned. And, that there's nothing wrong with that. But when you find yourself in that situation and you have explored every means of regularizing your paper in the United Kingdom, there is a scheme called voluntary return. Just as it says, it is voluntary. This scheme helps you to actually return home in dignity and in respect. You get the time to wrap up your affairs. You get what we call re-entry ban. This is a better way to go home rather than you staying here and you get exploited by people who do not have your interest at heart. I make a joke all the time. I say to people, if you know you've tried everything and you want to go home, what you can do when you get home, because you go like any other person, you travel like any other person, what you can do is to, when you get home and people are after a month, well, they focus on any other people anyway, is, oh, you know what, well, I've decided to come and try things out in Nigeria, and people will leave, people will not even bother. Now, I would like to bring in Debbie now, if she's on. Is Debbie here? Can I bring in Debbie?
No, I think you have to cover.
Okay. All right, no problem. Debbie's from the UKVI, like I said at the beginning. She was going to talk to us about EU settlement scheme. A lot of Nigerians who are also EEA nationals, please, if you fall into that category, there is a requirement for you to register. Please ensure you do that. It's all online. If you go to gov.uk, please just type it in and it tells it. I think the registration takes like 5 minutes for you to complete. It is very, very important. Don't just say, oh, I'm an EU national, I'm an EEA, I'm fine, that is it. No, please, you need to follow the requirement by the government and make sure you register. From next year, the point-based system will be coming in. So also for skilled people, so for those that are listening from outside the UK, please go to gov.uk. There's a lot of information on what skill attracts what point. So it is very, very important that you please familiarize yourselves with this before you speak to a solicitor who you want to take your case forward, because then you'll be coming from a place of knowledge. Also, good news, amendment to students studying in the UK. So from 2021, you'll be able to work or look for work in the UK at any skill, up to 2 years or 3 years if you're a PhD student. Next slide, please. Right. Now, you see, this is an area that I really, really like to highlight. A lot of our people are exploited, and when they are exploited, they do not report. I usually say to people, please, you cannot, because the more you let them off and you say you hand them to God, the more they will go to the next person and the next person and the next person to exploit. If you report them, you would help to curb this. A lot of people are working under some conditions that it is unfair that some lawyers or some solicitors are taking their money. So we have people that we call immigration advisors. They are not lawyers, they are solicitors. They are immigration advisors. And there's what we call the OISC, that is the Office of Immigration Service Commissioner. You can actually go there. If somebody says he or she is an immigration advisor, you can actually go to their website and check if they're still there, because some of them get struck off. So you can go there. There's a number there as well that you can call. For solicitors, this one is a pain for me. People not wanting to report solicitors, you need to report them. The Law Society is there. All you need to do is call them. The minute you tell your solicitor that you're going to go to the Law Society, you would see that they will respond to you in a different way. But because they know that a lot of people do not even know or do not know that they can just call them, you don't need to pay. You can pick up the phone, you can send them an email, and say the way your lawyer has treated you, you're not happy with it, put in a complaint, and you see how things will change in the community and the service that you also get. In terms of reporting crime, these crimes are happening under our noses. They're not happening in isolation. They're there, but we choose to look away. But think about this. If this is your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, I'm sure you would want somebody to speak up for them. So please, to report these crimes, there's Crime Stoppers. You can actually pick up the phone. You don't need to give your name. Just give the information. I think there's something, I think Crime Stoppers also reward people for giving information. It's not going to, and it's a toll-free number as well. Just pick up the phone and call them and report this crime. Because at the end of the day, don't forget that when a Nigerian is accused of one thing, it actually impacts on other Nigerians. We need to think about it. The ones that are giving us the bad names, we need to root them out. We need to name and shame them so that when you and I go and apply for a mortgage or for a loan or for a job, people are not saying, oh, another Nigerian. But when we're actively naming and shaming and reporting them, that will go a long way to help redeem ourselves and to redeem our image. There's for modern slavery as well. Like I said earlier, people who go and bring people in and enslave them. There's so many horrible stories. I've heard too many. I've heard some that are emotional that, when you hear them, you're like, are you serious? Is this another Nigerian treating another Nigerian like this? Yes, unfortunately, so many horrible stories. And the easiest one, 999, call the police. Pick up your phone and call the police. A lot of people would say, sorry, let me quickly backtrack. Going back to the voluntary return, we've had people who have actually gone to Nigeria and who have actually returned. As a matter of fact, I have a young man, his name is Dayo. He has volunteered, he's been to events with me where he talks about his experience when he was here and he didn't have his papers and he went back home. Meanwhile, when he was here, he did not go into any crime, thank God. So all he did within a space of 9 months, he actually returned to Nigeria with his wife. They regularized their papers. The wife is a British national, and the guy is back here, as legally back in the United Kingdom. So please, if you need help, you can reach us there, NSF. I'm sure they will pass your queries to us. The Home Office is there. Home Office Immigration is there to help, to support, and to give you a helping hand if need be. That is the end of my presentation. I hope you find it very useful. If you have any questions, let me know. Once again, NSF, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, presenting. Thank you for that stimulating presentation. I'm sure we'll have comments or questions to come. Now I'm going to introduce our second speaker. Our second speaker is Dr. Jennifer Obaseki. Dr. Jennifer is the CEO of Obaseki & Co. Limited. She is a businesswoman and an award-winning lawyer. Jennifer has been practicing as a solicitor for over 16 years. She is the director of LegalPaal and Obaseki & Co. Limited. Jennifer manages teams specializing in immigration, private client, civil litigation, negligence, family, crime, property, and commercial law. Obaseki Solicitors is a multi-award winning practice with service accreditation for excellence in family property law and have reported successful Supreme Court cases on immigration and human rights. Jennifer was most recently honored with a doctorate degree in law for her humanitarian services. Please welcome Dr. Jennifer Obaseki.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful evening where we hope to give you a lot of information. As it said, my name's Jennifer Obaseki and I'm a solicitor that has over 20 years experience in the UK dealing with immigration cases, and my practice has been established for more than 16 years. As it's been explained to you by the previous speaker, whenever you're going to an immigration lawyer or any lawyer, you must be sure of their qualifications, experience, insurance, and expertise. You do not go into Tesco's and give them money and say, give me food, without looking in the bag to see what food they've given you and whether it's okay for you. You must always make sure you know the route or the pathway in which the solicitor is offering to give you a solution. You must also ask, what is my percentage chance of success? So I must say that we have an excellent chance of success where we are, and we tend to resolve most of our cases positively for our clients. Let's go on to the slides because there's a lot of information to give. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking to you about is the European Settlement Scheme. Now, this scheme actually closes in June 2021. So if you're an EU national or you're a dependent of an EU national, it's imperative that you actually apply for your settlement. The scheme is actually going on now. So who can apply under this scheme? As I've said, EU nationals, also those from Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Ireland, and their dependents, and also Norway. It's to protect your right to free movement that has been established under the EU legislation. So during this transitional period, as the UK moves out of being under the EU legislation, and we've left the EU, don't forget, into adopting the British immigration policies that will apply, there's this transitional window. So if you have family members outside of the UK, if you have members all around, family members in Europe, and you can apply for up to 3 to come and join you here, it's important that A, you apply for their visas to come and join you, and if they're already here, that you apply for them to stay under the settlement scheme. Next slide, please. Now, the scheme can lead to settled status. When you apply, number one, it's free. You will get a decision as to whether you're entitled to pre-settled status or settled status. There is no excuse. It's a very simple process. Or you can even make this application from your phone. However, there are some complex applications that will need to be made on paper by post to the Home Office. This, in our office, usually involves dependents. We also offer what's called a check and send service because we feel it is that simple. But there are some people that have had hurdles, sometimes due to the complicated nature of their dependency, sometimes due to proof of them working, or there being some complex issue within their immigration history. But it should be something that's straightforward for you to do. So as it has a deadline, we implore you to hurry. And if you've had a problem with it, do seek advice straight away. Next slide, please. Now, again, it is free. You must not think about funding, worries, costs. If you get it wrong and you have a wrong answer, you might just have to apply again. It's free. But if you do need a solicitor to help you with the submissions, go in, get advice from somebody who is qualified and experienced, and then they can make the necessary submissions, if necessary, on a paper application, or make a representation in response to your rejection. So please, no excuses. Deadline, June 2021. And so if you've got people outside of the country, outside of that are non-EU nationals and residing outside in Africa, South America, anywhere, apart from European countries, then you must think about doing their visa applications to come and join you if they are your dependents. Please, if you're applying for someone to come as your dependent, remember you must show proof of relationship and you must show proof of dependency. You can't just have your uncle who's 30-something or 40-something and now suddenly invite them to come as a visitor and suddenly try and switch and say they're your dependent. It doesn't work like that. Home Office will ask for proof of relationship and proof of dependency. Don't get me wrong, you may have a relative that for some emotional reason or some change in the family structure has become your dependent. You'd have to prove it. And that is the type of case that you may need to go and get legal assistance to do. Next slide, please. Now, when it comes down to overstayers, I must say one of the areas of our specialisms is overstayers because of the fact that these can be complex situations. You may come into the United Kingdom in a lawful manner, and for one reason or another, you don't renew your status in time. Either you come as a visitor under false pretense and you find yourself stuck here. But the one thing I say to people is do not become landlocked. You become landlocked, you end up wasting many of your years in one place, unable to do anything legitimately. So an overstay is somebody whose leave has expired. It's best you always try to extend your stay in a proper manner. We've seen during COVID now, if you've come as a visitor, you can extend your visiting visa. And that was extended up until August. However, in certain circumstances where now the airspace has not opened in some countries, people are struggling to get flights, you may need to extend beyond the government deadline, which was in August. You may have to extend it further, and the Home Office will receive your application and consider your subjective situation. Again, it's something you should be able to do. However, if you need help, get the help and make the application. Do not fall foul of the immigration laws, because it's always very difficult to then rectify your status. If you find yourself in trouble, remember there's different provisions that can help you. There are fee waivers that you can apply for. And the fee waiver is a provision that the Home Office puts in place so that you do not have to pay the actual application fees for your immigration. And for this period during which we have COVID, there's a lot of flexibility that's being applied. So the consequences of overstaying: you can't work, you can't access benefits, you have restriction of movement, because if you're asked legitimately to confirm your status in the country, you may find yourself subject to detention because you've breached the terms and conditions which you come into the country. So the only way to rectify your status, let it be known, you must either be here for up to 20 years, and 20 years not being able to work and move around freely is no joke. That's what I call being landlocked. And I try to make sure people realize there's no joy in being landlocked. The other thing you can do is you might end up getting into a relationship, having children, and then if you're the parent of a British child, you may then be entitled to applying for leave to remain. And if you find yourself in this position where you are overstaying and you find yourself ill, unable to access NHS, one thing is, you are a human being. You have a right to be free from degrading treatment, so you should present yourself to a solicitor for assistance so that they might be able to make a humanitarian claim for you. Next slide, please. Now, if you have to apply for your leave to remain, that is, if you've been granted a period, it's expiring, one thing you have to remember is be prepared. Be prepared, because Home Office rules change and fees go up. So the one thing you have to realize right now, the fees are over £1,000, and you also have to pay the NHS surcharge. Remember, I did say you can apply for a fee waiver, but it's not automatically given. During this COVID period, we've had to make many applications for fee waivers, and actually, thank God, almost all of them have been granted. But you have to prove that you are vulnerable. So that means bank statements. That's been showing your income and expenditure. So it's not automatic. And again, making sure you have all the documentation needed for your application. If you've been in a relationship, if it's broken down, your situation may have changed. If you're in a marriage and you're now separated and you've been the victim of domestic violence, you may need to have additional submissions made to the Home Office on your behalf. Be prepared, have your paperwork in place, be organised, speak to somebody in time. The Home Office does have a lot of information on its websites, and you can go to .gov and get a lot of information, but there's something you need to know. The Home Office does not always accept liability for giving wrong advice. And not everybody who's a Home Office caseworker has extensive knowledge and experience as a long-serving and experienced immigration practitioner. So it's important that you get advice from a specialist, whether that's somebody in the Home Office or whether that's a solicitor. But a solicitor will have immigration insurance and be able to protect you by way of cover, a policy cover, should they give you wrong advice. But it's important that you do anything with an informed mind. So the one thing that if you do overstay, you need to know is you have up to 28 days window to try and rectify your situation, but 28 days is not long. So always be prepared. Remember, rules can change. Remember, fees can go up. And again, if you have a problem, don't sit on it, pray on it, put it under your pillow, put anointing oil on it, get qualified advice. Next slide, please. Okay, there's different types of entry clearance. So we've dealt with those people who are here, who are extending. Now let's think of those who want to come in. Now, remember I've said you've got the EU route, people who need to come in and settle. Again, if you have relatives that are in other European countries, let them realize that coming in with their dependents, they have up until January. And it's important that they have jobs to come to so that it will be easy for them to get their national insurance numbers. So if you have people that are EU nationals, don't think that, oh, they can stay on their loins, they still have time. No, the door is closing. Soon after January, after January, it's going to be those EU nationals alongside Nigerians, South Americans, Asians, all applying to come in on points-based system, level playing field. 2021, level playing field. So again, if you're coming in, not just students to work, you might come in and want to be investing. Again, those EU people will all join the rest of the world now in order to come and vie for places in the United Kingdom. So you have investment visas, tier 2, and also tier 4 for students. So I'm going to take you through these as quickly as I can. Okay, next slide, please. So tier 1 investor visa, this is going to be phased out next year. So it's important that if you're coming in under this route, that you understand that, again, the window for this is closing, but alternative schemes are coming in. So to be eligible, you must be coming from outside the EU and Switzerland. You must have access to £2 million. This fund must be invested in the UK and not in property. You can't just come in and buy a tower block. You can't just come in and buy a load of offices. You can't just come in and say that you are developing in real estate, but you can come in and say you are managing real estate. So if you are coming in under this umbrella or in this route, it's important that you get specific advice and also have a tailored plan that is workable, that is strategic, that is tested, because it will be scrutinized in detail. You can get up to 3 years on your entry, and then it can be extended. So that is very important that you realize that it comes in phases, but ultimately you will get indefinite leave to remain after 5 years. Next slide, please. Then there is also the fact that this fund also goes up to an amount of 10 million. And under the 10 million route, you must understand that you can get your indefinite leave to remain within 2 years. It's a fast track route due to the amount that's being invested, obviously. You must realize that even though you have those funds, there are still additional fees along the way, such as the NHS surcharge. And also it's so attractive because you can then bring your dependent family members. And when you see families migrate with large amounts of investment and they're doing it through this route, it's actually quite, I wouldn't say easy because of the amount, but there is smooth sailing if you do it in a structured and proper manner. Next slide, please. So there's also the startup visa, or what can be seen or known as the innovation visa. This has been the replacement for the graduate visa that we used to have in 2018. It was phased out 2019, and this is the replacement. Now, it's to attract innovators. So if you're in the digital realm or if you're in the medical realm, this is something that is about promoting innovation and technology in the UK. You have to present an idea, that plan has to be signed off, and then there's an interview. But the amount is much smaller. It starts at the £50,000 mark. And the thing about this is you cannot come in multiple numbers. It only applies to one person. It can be extended though, which is, you know, really important. And apart from the fact that it can be extended, you can also switch out of this category. So if you don't have the 10 million or the 2 million, you can start with this one if you've got an innovative plan and if it's something that will pass the test, and then if you individually pass the interview. Next slide, please. Now, what you can do when you have this is you can bring in just dependents, not extended family members. You can work for another company, but that's once you have started up your innovative idea. And you see people in the tech world, as you know, you might contract. Again, in the medical world, if you're a senior person that has something that's innovative like this, you might have to contract out and do other things. So this actually allows that level of flexibility. And as I've said in the past, you can switch out of this route into another route. So the one thing you can't do is you cannot obtain public funds, and you also cannot obtain settlements. So you would need to switch out in order to then stay in the UK under another path that leads you to settlement. Next slide, please. Now, this route, again, for students, you have different routes for students coming into the UK. Very important that you appreciate that. You have junior students who are of a younger age, and then you have senior students that go into higher education. So you must also have your certificate of approval of studies before coming to the UK under this route. And if you're coming in under the junior route, it's important that you know the parents can come in and they will have up to 1 year to stay and look after the child. Next slide, please. So again, people under the junior route are under the age of 18. Parents come for up to a year. And the parents, though, cannot work if they are coming in to stay with the junior student whilst they're doing their studies. Next slide, please. Now, you can switch between junior and senior routes, and also very important to note that your dependents can come with you if you're in the senior route. So whether it's a dependent spouse, dependent parent, dependent child, you can bring them in. Next slide, please. Again, we've also got to talk about coming into the UK to work. Now, the UK has published a job shortage list, as you know, nurses, healthcare workers. There's even a special provision and an expedited application for those healthcare workers because you're much needed here on the front line. But you must make sure that you qualify under the transitional exams, and you must also make sure that you have a job offer from somebody who has a certificate of sponsorship. Sadly, lots of Nigerians fall for fake agents, pay money unnecessarily into people's hands that don't have these actual sponsorship certificates. So if you're going this route, do your homework, find out what you need in order to pass your conversion exams and be accelerated into the professional boards. Look for support and make sure you have that job offer. Otherwise, you'll come in, find out you're not able to work within your field in a proper manner and get into trouble. Next slide, please. So again, as I've said, 2021, it's UK versus the rest of the world. You have to be very, very careful, minding on the shortage list. But the UK is going to open up the graduate visa and the new student visa. Sadly, the Home Office hasn't put an exact time on when these new visas are coming in. So currently, if you're in the UK as a student, it might be worth you doing an extra course to extend your visa so that when these new student and graduate visas come in 2021, we're told summer, but we don't know when, that you will fall under this scheme because then you'll be able to work and stay in the UK. But as you've got to remember at the back of your mind, with the student visa, it doesn't always lead to settlement. Next slide, please. Now, this is a list here for some of the job shortage. So it's not just medical. You do have also teachers, but also look, quantity surveyors, pharmacists, IT business analysts. So again, not just medical. The UK needs skilled hands because, again, left the EU, lots of the EU workers have gone. It's, again, the world is opening up. Windrush. I'm going to talk very quickly about Windrush. And it's imperative that you know, if your parents were here 60s, 70s, and they got leave to remain, indefinite leave to remain, the fact that they left the UK does not mean that leave to remain expires. It was thought that if you leave the UK for up to 2 years, you lose it. But by virtue of the fact that we are Commonwealth nationals, the law was actually there to protect us so you don't lose it. Sadly, the Home Office is actually rejecting a lot of these applications that are made from Nigeria under the Windrush scheme to come here. And there's also delay. However, those who come in on visit and make the application within the country, there's a different and easier test to pass. You must try and make your application to come in as a visitor. The test is easier once you are here. And if you have difficulty with it, we are experts and we're able to help you. Apart from the fact that you will get settlement, it can also transcend to your children. And apart from that, you can also get compensation. And that is a very important thing. You can get damages for applications, separation from family, loss of opportunity. And again, we're experts on that. Next slide, please. So if you have questions and answers, because that's a lot that I've gone through, please note that I have somebody on the chat and I'm here to help. You can email into Obaseki Solicitors. So that's info@obasekisolicitors.com. You can also email Suleiman at Obaseki Solicitors, and he will be happy to help you because he's an expert that I have trained up. And again, we've got an excellent team, an award-winning team to help you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jennifer. Thank you for that superb presentation. We're now going to move swiftly to the question and answer time. And so I'll ask my colleague, Tola, again to take over. Thank you, Tola.
Okay. Thank you very, very much to our worthy speakers. Thank you very much, Dr. Jennifer Obaseki and Yemisi Jenkins, MBE. Thank you. You've got several questions. The first question here is directed to Yemisi Jenkins. It's a comments versus question. It says, I'm kind of baffled at the overgeneralization of solicitors and immigration advisors. Well, probably there are few people like that, but they're minorities. So this is a comment and a question, wondering why there's that kind of generalization. I wonder if you would like to address that.
Okay, quick one. It wasn't my intention to generalize. I usually tell people that we have a lot of fantastic solicitors and immigration advisors within the community, but unfortunately, we also have high number of those who continue to damage your reputation. So maybe it's high time the solicitors, I think there's a British Nigerian Forum, maybe it's high time you need to start naming and shaming them as well, because I can reel out people's lives have been ruined. So apologies, it wasn't my intention to make a sweeping statement to all the solicitors, to the ones that are doing their job fantastically well. I say thank you, but for the rogue ones, let us root them out.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jenkins. There is another one to you. This individual feels that, the mention has been made of voluntary returns, but nothing is being said about the government paying for their flights. Would you like to throw more light into that?
Oh, yes, there is financial support. Unfortunately, because I had 20 minutes, I just had to touch on each of the areas that I wanted to discuss. Yes, for voluntary return, there's financial support for those who cannot afford to buy the ticket. We'll help you to buy your ticket. Even there, some people will fall into the category that they need support when they get back home. There is support for that, but it is not a one-size-fits-all. So please get in touch. If you know anyone who needs support, the team will sit down and look at their case and then come up with something workable for them.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, the rest of the questions are are directed to Dr. Jennifer Obaseki. The first question here is that, is there any form of option for UK citizens to apply for the EU settlement?
No. EU law, however, is still applicable to, for example, for somebody who's a UK national that has a non-EEA national living with them, caring for them. So that might be somebody that is caring for you and your elderly, or it might be the fact that you are a non-EEA national and you are caring for a EEA national or a British person. So there is that provision that's there. So it's very important. I wanted to make a little bit of a mention in relation to what Ms. Jenkins has said. Today, within our professional magazine, we were told of a lawyer who's made 60 judicial review applications. He was barred from ever making a judicial review application again, and he was fined over £60,000 because he kept promising people something he could not deliver, giving them false merits on their application. So when Ms. Jenkins talks about bad practitioners, she comes from a place where she's seen the damage that's been done. I appreciate it wasn't a generalization. We have some very good practitioners out there. I am part of the British Nigerian Law Forum, and I can tell you there are some good immigration practitioners on that forum.
Thank you, thank you. Another question here is to confirm where, this individual would like to know whether it would be possible to bring their mom from Nigeria to the EU and when this could be.
Okay, so if the person is an EU national and they've been caring for their mum all this while, or they have evidence of dependency, they can apply for her visa to come in as a dependent, and then she will be granted a period of settlement when she comes in. If the person is an English person and has a British passport and they can show dependency, if the mother's over the age of 65, then they will be able to make an application for her to come in, outlining that they are her main carer. And those types of applications, sadly, are not granted in the same proportion as the EEA ones. However, if the mother is here even as a visitor and they can show a reason why her situation has changed, then they may be able to make an application while she's here as a visitor. We do not encourage people coming in through the back door, but as human beings, our life changes, things happen. And so during this COVID time, I've heard some very sad situations about parents who can't get even their carers in Nigeria to come to them. So family dynamics change. It's important that they get advice on their subjective situation, but I would explain to them that if they're an EU national, it will be easier because of the rules. And the window, again, I remind you, is closing.
Thank you for that. And a final question to yourself, Dr. Jennifer. Is there any form of or option for UK citizens to apply for EU settlement?
No. EU settlement is for EU nationals, okay? EU settlement is for EU nationals. The one thing I will say to you is, back in the day, people really didn't appreciate what EU law was about. If you're a returning resident, so if you're an EU national that has been working in the UK, but you have a spouse anywhere in the world, when they come back, as you are returning back to the UK, they should not be denied entry with you. So that's any of your dependents. But they, you know, the rules are they should apply for an entry clearance visa first. But the rules strictly are, if they are stopped at the border, then it's a breach of your right to free movement because it hinges on it. So you can't, sadly, as a British person, apply for EU settlement. You're British, be proud of it, embrace it, okay? And try to look at the UK immigration rules and what provisions you will be able to use in order to effectively help settle or invite family members to come and visit you here. Be aware that the UK has said that it's going to strip back some parts of the Human Rights Act, some parts that have been around to protect people, such as, I think, Article 8. They're going to institute the, or let's say reinforce the British Bill of Rights, and also touch areas such as detention, because currently people in detention stay there a long time. However, there's going to be some revisions that mean that EA nationals can't spend up to 48 hours, must be presented before a judge. There'll be other elements that are done in order to protect and preserve family life. However, we're yet to see when these changes will come. That's why it's important we talk about the changes now, and we talk about what's happening currently, so that you do not just let things lapse. There are no barriers to you making these applications if you're an EU national. If you have no funds to regularize your status, you can apply for fee waivers. If you are having difficulty because of no recourse to public funds, you can apply for those public funds to be removed. And finally, if you have dependent children and you are having difficulty because of no recourse, you can go to your local authority to ask for help. No authority can leave a child destitute within its borough. It's not lawful. So please speak up, get qualified help, and God will cover you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, just one more question. Either of the speakers could tackle this question. Is it possible to have a forum where we can ask questions on some challenging and difficult aspects of a particular case? So that would be either to Yemisi Jenkins, MBE, or Dr. Obaseki. Do you think it would be possible to have a forum where we can ask questions on some challenging and difficult aspects of a particular case?
Sorry, but for me, I'm open. People know that we always have a free legal clinic in our office every Friday. I also do remote clinics in South London, and wherever anybody asks a member of my firm to come and talk, we always come and talk. One thing is, our advice, again, has to come from a qualified, experienced person. That's number one. Number two, advice is liable to let's say, scrutiny if wrong. So you've got to make sure whoever's giving you that advice is covered to give you that advice. Very important. But we should be able to have an open chat. The Home Office does answer questions. Do not be fooled. The Home Office answers questions. You can also ask questions through your MP. And I'm happy to help NSF with any platform they would ever want to create for this, for that type of question and answer session.
Thank you. Dr. Would Yemisi Jenkins add anything to that? Would you like to add?
Yes, we do answer questions. We actually encourage people to get in touch with us. It's rather unfortunate that Debbie couldn't log in, but UK VI, they actually answer a lot of questions and they actually give people advice. So please, if you have questions about cases, or if you have applied for, if you've made application and it's taking longer than necessary, please get in touch, because there are avenues for those applications to be looked into and to find out why there has been unreasonable delay.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. At this stage, I would really like to thank our speakers tonight on behalf of NSF UK. I'd like to thank you very much. You've been really very worthy speakers. And I would like to thank you for your very, very informative, very detailed, very engaging presentations. I'd also like to thank our audience for coming tonight, for making this day. You know, I'm sure you would enjoy, I'm sure, you know, for your family or friends or community out there, there's been one or two strategies that you would like to use. Just a very brief recap. I know that Yemisi Jenkins MBE is really hot on the idea that, you know, lots of Nigerian community are not very, very keen to get authentic information, and that's not very, very, very useful. She would like, you know, the Nigerian community to go after very authentic information, and to also make sure that, you know, they're getting value, they're getting value for, you know, the service that they're, you know, hoping to get provided, for the money that they're paying for. Also, she's also saying that, you know, sometimes services are being that are expected to be provided are not exactly what's being provided. And if you know that you're being exploited, don't be afraid, you know, to report to the Home Office. Dr. Obaseki, on the other hand, is talking about the changes in the immigration law. She's talked to us today about the European Economic Settlement Scheme, which, you know, allows for people to bring their family or their, you know, their relatives back home to the EU. But the deadline would be the 1st of June, 2021. So lots and lots and lots of information has been given. I hope we can take advantage of it. Thank you very much, speakers. At this stage, I'd really like to point your attention, audience, to the poll. Please take advantage of the poll. And thank you very, very much for coming tonight. I'd be looking forward to have you join us at our very next Let's Talk About It NSF UK webinar series. Thank you very much and good night.